Welcome to PricePlow and welcome to our Formulators Corner. My name is Mike, and today we are tasked with creating a new pre-workout supplement, but not the same old type of pre-workout supplement you've seen here a million times. We're going for something way different, way out of left field, something that requires a little bit less caffeine, but provides more clean energy, because we're looking for a Mito boosting pre-workout. And by Mito, I mean mitochondria. I'm looking for something to enhance our cells' powerhouses, which is the mitochondria, to allow our cells to get as much usable, clean energy without needing any crazy amounts of caffeine, without needing any exotic stimulants or anything egregious, all above board stuff. We're looking for like a mood boosting, feel good pre-workout that's not going to give anyone anxiety or jitters or craziness or any of that stuff. And this is what we formulated here. So this is going along with a blog post that we have. There's a lot of ingredients here. It's going to be a little bit long. You can read the blog post or kind of cycle through it, but we have two blog posts that we're going to reference here. And so this isn't really meant to be a lesson about the mitochondria. In general, we're going to try to give your body as many tools as possible to produce as much ATP, adenosine triphosphate, which is kind of like the energy token in the cells that that our bodies use. Our bodies, I always write about like our bodies and our cells don't care about calories. The cells care about ATP. That is like the energy token, and it is produced by the Krebs cycle or the citric acid cycle in the body. And we are trying to get our mitochondria to produce as much of it as possible by providing the tools required for that in this pre-workout supplement. So you can read an article we have titled The Power of Mito. We also have a podcast episode talking about the mitochondria and how they work. So we're not going to really get too much into it, but we're going to do two things. So we're going to try to produce as much ATP as possible, but we're also going to include some ingredients that increase the amount of mitochondria that are created as well. Mitochondrial biogenesis. And there's some ingredients doing that. And what I realized is that a lot of the pre-workout ingredients that we often use are like really healthy as is. Like taurine and betaine, for instance, they're going to show up here. And the more I look at this, it's like, oh, a lot of our pre-workouts are actually really beneficial for people, especially if they're deficient in certain things. So that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to just make as much clean energy as possible. So let's let it rip. And we're going to let it rip with a very wildly different ingredient in the form of 3 grams of creatine pyruvate. Yeah, we always see creatine monohydrate, and right now this is for two things. I'm making this video at the end of 2021, and so as a lot of people know, there's a lot of supply chain issues going on. There's probably going to continue into 2022 as well, and so creatine monohydrate and citrulline are two of the ingredients that are like just getting clobbered in price and everything, and so we're going to stay away from those. And creatine pyruvate is one way of doing that, but I'm not doing it just to stay away from the supply chain. And so creatine, first off, is incredible because the creatine monohydrate, even any form of creatine, has been shown to be a phosphate donor, providing the phosphate for the adenosine triphosphate. So we need like our 3 phosphate groups for an ATP molecule to generate ATP. Creatine, being a phosphate donor, has been shown to do so many things, not just muscle, but also like cognition and general well-being and mood and even testosterone. There are so many studies on creatine. It's indisputable at this point that it's great, and it's great because it's great for the mitochondria, which are everywhere in the body, our cells' powerhouses. And by providing more phosphate, we are going to provide more tools to your mitochondria to get the ATP going. However, creatine monohydrate, we don't need more water. Drink your water, of course. We don't need a hydrate molecule attached there. What we need, I'm not going to say what we need, but what we want is something else. And I'm adding a pyruvate molecule. So this is creatine bound to pyruvic acid. And pyruvate, actually, if you go back to that Power of Mito article, you'll start seeing that pyruvate, via pyruvate dehydrogenase, it is decarboxylated, so there's a carboxylic acid removed, and then before entering the mitochondria, and this is what starts to kickstart the Krebs cycle. This is one of the first components that gets generated into acetyl-CoA or acetyl coenzyme A, and that is very popular for like a lot of the keto dieters out there know that this is actually gets produced into beta-hydroxybutyrate, the ketones and everything. But anyway, this pyruvate is one of the main substrates that are used to kick this whole thing off. And so just in case, we're going to make sure we have you covered here with creatine pyruvate, a form of creatine that is, lesser studied. But let me show you this. If you look at our blog post, we have all these great benefits of creatine that we've seen. Then we talk about a couple studies from 2007, 2008. It turns out that when creatine pyruvate was pitted against creatine citrate and creatine monohydrate, guess what was more bioavailable? You even got more creatine in the plasma with creatine pyruvate than the monohydrate form. So yes, I'm never going to hate on monohydrate. I love this stuff. Every day, 3 to 5 grams a day. But I'm gonna argue that we should get more research on the creatine pyruvate form. And this study from 2007 shows us that there might be some extra benefits. Why? And so that's why we're using it here. We're already hitting with 2 different angles here with 1 ingredient to boost ATP production. And the pyruvate has been shown in a couple studies to actually be a little bit better than monohydrate as it is. So might as well take it. And if monohydrate's prices are going to be high, then whatever, get it out of here. Not going to hate. I love my monohydrate, but let's get it. Yeah, let's try something else. And I really do think we need more research. And I would love for someone to try putting out a supplement that has pyruvate inside. Now, moving on, we have the first of our 3 osmolyte cell hydration ingredients. And this is 2.5 grams of betaine. We've talked about it numerous times on this blog. Generally, we cite Jason Chalawa's 2 studies. There's actually 3 papers on 2 studies that he has showing muscle gains at 2.5 grams per day and fat loss / weight loss in women at 2.5 grams a day as well. So that study sometimes gets forgotten about because everyone likes the gains in arm size that can be found. Now this is an osmolyte that allows for better water transfer amongst the cells, but the reason we're adding it here is because it's also a methyl donor. And there are a lot of, so creatine is our phosphate donor, we got the pyruvate, now we also have methyl groups being added, and this has been shown to help lower homocysteine levels, and there's numerous health benefits. This is one of those ingredients like, wow, this is like really healthy. And we know that it contributes to gains, gives you that water pump when you drink more water, but there's also a lot of influence over the RNA and increasing overall mitochondrial activity. There's even some research showing that betaine improves mitochondrial respiration and has some like disease fighting capabilities. So really excited about that. It's liver protective. There's just so many cool things that do it. But if you really want a really good review, in this article, we cite a study from Biology titled Beneficial Effects of Betaine, a comprehensive review that goes over a lot of this stuff beyond all the standard pre-workout stuff that we generally talk about. So really here for the methyl donation, but there's a ton of other stuff. Now we're gonna kick off some of the NNB Nutrition ingredients that we have in here, and we're gonna start with something that's a little bit different. We're gonna add some MCT powder in the form of C8 Vantage from NNB Nutrition. Now, C8 Vantage is an MCT powder whose MCTs are 95% C8 or caprylic acid. This is the fastest and shortest chain of the main MCTs that we often get sourced from coconut. And it's gonna provide, first off, the fastest amount of energy because it requires less processing to break down the 8 carbon chain saturated fatty molecule, but also because, and so there's less like liver taxation basically used, but also there's less GI distress. Sometimes in the studies they show like that the MCTs cause GI distress or gut pain or gas or bloating or any of that stuff. It's oftentimes the lauric acid, C12. NNB Nutrition's like, none of that. Get that out of here. We want C8. It is more ketogenic. It is faster acting, provides more energy. And this is, it can be used as an energy substrate that if you are having like insulin resistance, if you're not really doing good at burning sugar, and you haven't yet fully gone towards like an alternative form of energy, such as the keto, like a ketogenic diet. I'm not like Mr. Keto here anymore. Don't worry about that. But at the same time, this can allow your body to have that alternate energy form in terms of ketone production, because those MCTs get broken down right into ketones, and C8 does that best. So if you're not doing good with sugar, it's time to start looking at some of the healthy fats out there, and those are the MCTs. Now, in terms of mitochondria, there's a couple of really cool, they're animal studies, but one of them is simply titled Medium Chain Triglycerides Enhances Exercise Endurance Through the Increased Mitochondrial Biogenesis and Metabolism. So MCTs, super healthy. There's some data starting to show that we're able to produce more mitochondria when we start throwing more MCTs at the body. And so that's something to keep an eye on. And we're gonna have more ingredients that do that as well. Huge fan of C8 Vantage. This is also a really like kind of a smoothing agent that we could use in here. So maybe we don't need as many of the other ingredients, but it's gonna change the mouthfeel. I've had a few pre-workouts that have MCTs in them, and I've always kind of enjoyed that. This is obviously gonna be a different supplement here. Now we gotta have a nitric oxide booster. I told you that we're not gonna have citrulline in here, and that's true. However, if you've been watching this channel enough, you're gonna be able to guess easily what's gonna come up next, nitrosogene. And this is an inositol stabilized arginine silicate from Nutrition 21. We've covered numerous times here. And normally we talk about all the benefits of having nitrosogene. There's a ton of nitric oxide boost, a long-lasting nitric oxide boost to get the extra blood flow. Now that blood flow works not just to your muscles, but also to the brain. But there's some research showing that arginine goes even beyond that. And so there's one study showing in terms of neurotransmitter function that arginine has benefits for the synapses as well in the brain. So it might be just from the added blood flow because we are getting more blood flow from the more nitric oxide, which is giving us that vasodilation effect. But there's also other benefits to having arginine boosted in the blood supply, and we are very big proponents of nitrosogene as a more stable form of arginine that doesn't get broken down as soon as standard L-arginine does. So huge fan of this, and you can see our mountains of other videos you want to learn about nitrosogene. We have a lot of blog posts on that as well. Now, continuing with our osmolyte trifecta, the second of the 3 ingredients is RhodioPrime Glycerol from NNB Nutrition. Now, with RhodioPrime, we are getting a stabilized form of glycerol that's going to allow our bodies to increase the total volume of water in the body. So like I said, drink a lot of water with this. That's going to give us like that cell volumization, that like water pump effect, so that we have a little bit more hydration, a little bit less urine output. We put together a funny video about that as well. I still think someone should put this in a sleep aid or use it before bed in case you're urinating too much, but that's a whole other story. But yeah, no one wants to be going to the bathroom all the time if you're drinking a lot of water during workouts. So, but even better, research shows that glycerol is very synergistic with creatine, but we don't often see them paired together. But remember, I got the creatine pyruvate in here, so you can look at the studies where they showed glycerol and creatine working better together than with either one separately. And so that's pretty important. We have a huge blog post titled Glycerol, the ultimate guide for hydration, heat protection, and pumps. This will help you train better in the heat. We're entering winter as I post this video, but man, when it gets hot, I always go for a little bit of glycerol and a ton of water, and then some electrolytes as a little teaser here. I guess the 4th hydration ingredient, I do recommend we're going to add some salt here. Now finally, rounding out the osmolyte trifecta as I have in this article, we have taurine. This is an ingredient that we often talk about. You have a gram in here. This is an ingredient we talk about because its ability to increase endurance through water transfer. It's an osmolyte. Huge fans of it. There's a great meta-analysis talking about that. But we don't always talk about some of the mitochondrial benefits. Turns out there is a recent paper, it's a monster. They cite 250 articles. So 250 citations in this paper titled The Role of Taurine in Mitochondrial Health, more than just an antioxidant. And they talk about how, yeah, taurine is great as an antioxidant, but there's also a lot of mitochondrial and like insufficient cellular energy type of disorders that taurine helps combat. And it also does promote antioxidant action, but it goes further than that. And so having taurine around, this is like one of those ingredients, like, man, like our pre-workouts are doing pretty good here. Like this taurine, I think back in the day, we got a little upset when they were using it to bump up the protein numbers and like protein powder that's known as amino acid spiking. So we were hating on taurine for that reason. But man, it is a beneficial ingredient in general. So happy to see it in pre-workouts, and it's in mine as well. Now, I'm talking about focus. And taurine brings a little bit of focus. I chose not to include a source of choline. So some may hate on that. You feel free to comment below. There's not a whole lot of like mitochondrial information between choline and the mitochondria. However, for focus, I actually chose AcetylLCarnitine, a gram of Alcar as we call it. Now carnitine, the main reason I have the carnitine in here is because this is the molecule that helps with fatty acid transport to the mitochondria. And so if we're carnitine deficient, if you have nothing in your carnitine pool, a lot of this might be for nothing anyway. Like we need to get the fatty acids to the mitochondria to burn them, get energy going. And having a deficient L-carnitine is really going to put a halt on a lot of things. And this is why we see a lot of problems and people aren't eating enough foods that can contain L-carnitine, such as the meats and everything. So I use animal products. It makes sense. However, why not just regular L-carnitine or any other form? Well, acetyl-L-carnitine actually can cross the blood-brain barrier, and there are some nootropic effects as well. So I'm using this as our nootropic ingredient as well. And we're going to use some others as well. But on top of that, the acetyl-L-carnitine is going to provide some acetyl groups. So we got the phosphate, we got the methyl donors, we got the pyruvate, we got the acetyl groups coming. I'm trying to throw everything we can to make sure your body has enough, because you're going to need the acetyl groups for acetyl-CoA alongside of that pyruvate. So I'm like I said, I'm throwing as much substrate as possible at this, but acetyl-L-carnitine does really feel good. And it's a very bioavailable form of L-carnitine. So that's why I put that in there. That is my nootropic. Instead of choline, I go with the L-car. Now is when we get into the fun stuff, the smaller doses, but some of the heavier hitters. BioNMN from NNB Nutrition. If you watch any of our videos when we visited Glaxon, I don't know if you can see, I'm wearing their shirt. When we visited Glaxon for Goon Day, we dosed up pretty high on the NMN. And this is known as nicotinamide mononucleotide. We've had a couple videos talking about this. Some new research been coming out. So this is an NAD booster. And NAD is huge for catalyzing the production of ATP. When we age, our NAD levels go down, and with that comes a whole lot of mitochondrial problems. Now, correlation and causation are tough to put together, but it seems that when NAD levels are low, a lot of bad stuff happens. So we need to try to keep our NAD levels high so we can keep our ATP production high as well. In order to do that, we're looking for different tools, of course, to increase it. And I think the best one is NMN, nicotinamide mononucleotide. And BioNMN is a highly stabilized, bioavailable form of NMN. We recently covered how this ingredient helps with improving insulin sensitivity in overweight women. And on the day when we visited Glaxon, getting back to that clean energy, like this is the ingredient that I am most excited about in this pre-workout. There's a lot of them that I like. I'm very excited about the getting back to creatine pyruvate and everything, but BioNMN, clean energy. When someone's asking for a couple clean energy ingredients, there's gonna be two, BioNMN and RhodioPrime, and those are both gonna be in here, so we'll talk about that. So anyway, with improved NAD levels, you're gonna have a whole lot of cardioprotective, neuroprotective, like numerous benefits. This is one of those things, just like with creatine, when you have the improved ATP production, tons of different benefits. So if NAD production is like slowing down through age or slowing down because your diet is trashing your electron transport chain, this might be something to help throw at it to push through and increase the amount of ATP produced. What's really cool about NMN is it seems that our body has its own transporter for this molecule. And there's some studies showing that the NMN can get the NAD production boosted in cells in like 5 to 10 minutes. So this is, if you feel something a little extra here, this is why, this and RhodioPrime probably, but there's a little bit of a fast acting, feel good, clean energy feel here that doesn't put you over the edge or anything. It doesn't put me over the edge or anything. I am very, very excited about this ingredient. And so we're gonna keep following it and all the anti-obesogenic research that we're starting to see. There's tons of mouse research. The human research has been rolling out now, and NMN is looking really good. So a lot of those other NAD precursors, we're gonna include some niacin in here, but they're not as good as NMN. After that, we've talked a lot on this channel about Mitoburn, l-baiba. Now this is a non-protein amino acid. You know the branched chain amino acid valine? Well, when you start exercising, valine gets broken down into baiba, l-baiba, the L form, and that is actually used as a myokine, as a muscle messenger that tells the rest of the body that, hey, we are working out, get the exercise programs going. And by exercise programs, we mean like fat oxidation, we mean bone preservation, we mean regulate a lot of the different things that we need when we're exercising to make sure that we have the energy available to our bodies and to ourselves and to our muscles. So it's a muscle messenger. So upon realizing what was going on with the breakdown of valine into baiba, the researchers, of course, are like, well, what happens if we supplement more? Are we gonna get some of those benefits as well? Those like exercise related benefits. And of course, this is a pre-workout supplement. So I recommend that you do exercise. This is not a substitute of exercise. And I always gotta cover that. Turns out though, in the rat studies and the mouse studies and all the different animal models, when they supplement more of the l-baiba itself, you get a whole flurry of benefits that are all very much like the benefits of exercise. And so this has been included in a lot of fat burners. We kind of, in like our podcast with Glaxon, we kind of call it like the ingredient of the year in 2020. And it really came out. And for me, like I kind of get my heart rate up a little bit faster with it. And I feel like just generally looser. Like I don't need to stretch as much when I'm using this. It's like, that's a unique, weird anecdotal effect that I really like. But in general, we're here to tell the body we're exercising, get moving, start increasing fat oxidation, and get the mitochondria pumping because we're working out. So anyway, We talk about some of the mechanisms in action in here, PPAR alpha, PGC1 alpha activation, and that actually PGC1 can actually increase the amount of mitochondria, so there might be some mitochondrial biogenesis from this ingredient. Don't know about that just yet, but it looks like incredibly promising. So far we've been playing a lot of offense. I'm throwing a lot of stuff at you, all right? This pre-workout might be expensive if someone puts it together. We might need to tone it down a little bit. We need to play a little defense. Now the issue when we're taking the NMN and when we're doing anything that boosts NAD levels is that as we age, I'm starting to age, been doing this for a while. As we're aging though, there is an enzyme known as CD38, and this is a consumer of our NAD. It eats up our NAD, and the NAD doesn't get to produce as much ATP and cellular energy as we would like, and CD38 goes up as we get older. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna throw in two different CD38 inhibitors. When I originally wrote our BioNMN article, we kind of mentioned two ingredients to use as a stack, and the first one is quercetin. I'm a huge fan of quercetin, and this is my daily immune stack, daily like anti-aging stack. Pair it with a high quality zinc, and so it's got some great effects on that side. In this case, we're using it as a CD38 inhibitor, and by downplaying the amount of CD38 we have, the CD38 will not be available to eat up our NAD, and we're going to have more NAD from the NMN production. So this alone is some really good anti-aging effects, and so be it if we get some immunity benefits as well. On top of that, it doesn't hurt that we have studies showing that quercetin supplementation decreases exercise-induced stress as well. So cool pre-workout ingredient. Don't see it as much in pre-workouts. If you're formulating a stack of various supplements, maybe this would be in your immunity side too. I like 500 milligrams a day if getting sick. A gram a day. This is 250 milligrams here, so I left you at 250 milligrams for your immunity supplement as well. But if you threw 500 milligrams in this, I would not argue. I don't think we need that much for CD38 inhibition though. After that, I've talked about it a lot. RhodioPrime 6X. This is a Rhodiola granulata extract that is standardized for 6% salidroside. To me, that's the feel-good, clean energy, like the non-stimulant energy component from Rhodiola that has this like chipper, feel-good, mood-boosting effect. It works with the serotonin system. We've covered it in numerous articles. I love this stuff. I don't want to get too crazy because I've done that in other videos. In general, the studies show that there's just better cellular functioning, better serotonergic uptake, and better like potentiation in the hippocampus. It's got nootropic effects. It's good for like kind of just getting off caffeine a little bit. There's just it's like an adaptogen, helps us regulate levels. But what's really cool about the salidroside here is that there is a study showing that is protective against mitochondrial disturbances and improves mitochondrial energy while protecting the cells from death. So while it's here because it feels good and gives that clean energy feel, it's also here playing defense for your mitochondria. So I have 200 milligrams in here. I think that's a good dose. I'd say in a pre-workout, 175, 150 to 250 milligrams is perfectly fine. I went right in the middle and did 200 milligrams. Finally, we're getting to the caffeine. We don't need to talk about caffeine too much. I didn't want too much here. And so we're doing 225 milligrams total. And I like a blend. I have 190 milligrams of caffeine anhydrous and 50 milligrams of zum-xr extended release. Don't take this stuff too late at night. You'll be up all night. At least I was. But anyway, zum-xr 50 milligrams yields 35 more milligrams for a combined total of 225 milligrams of caffeine. I think with a formula like this, we can lower the amount of caffeine needed so that we're not doing 300, 350, 400 milligrams of caffeine. Not necessary. BioNMN and RhodioPrime take care of a lot of that. The C8 Vantage takes care of a lot of that for us. Having AcetylLCarnitine there takes care of a lot of that for us. I'm telling you, don't need 300 milligrams of caffeine, even though, and since that Glaxon day, since we're talking about that, I realized how much caffeine I was using. I have dialed it back down. I am at like less than 400 milligrams of caffeine again per day, which makes me happy. If I took this product, I think I would even be able to get it down to like sub 300. So there's a lot of stuff in here. Finally, we are, not finally, we have a few more things. Estrogen from New Live Science. We gotta amplify stuff. There is research showing that estrogen, the astragalus, and the nodoginseng in here, Panax nodoginseng, can increase gut permeability and amplify the absorption that we get, especially from arginine and from creatine and likely other things by increasing gut permeability. So a big fan of these. And then our last active ingredient is PQQ. I don't feel feel like I'm pronouncing it. I've been talking too much as it is. So PQQ is another one of those like clean energy ingredients. You're going to see it in a lot of heart health supplements and alongside coenzyme Q10, CoQ10. We don't have that here, but we are using it for some of the clean energy effects because it feels like slightly stimulatory, and I think we're going to be able to get the caffeine down a little bit more, but it's really here because it's another ingredient that increases mitochondrial biogenesis. And so I'm trying to get your body to make as much mitochondria as possible, and that's the final ingredient to do so, and that's the last active. Now in terms of inactives, I already mentioned we're adding salt. I'm a big believer in that. If you disagree, then you're wrong. I don't believe any of the fear-mongering regarding salt and blood pressure, especially for athletes training. I think maybe some people are, like a small portion of people are sodium hyperresponders. The majority of them are not. It's the other white molecule out there that everyone's eating too much of that causes high blood pressure, not salt. On top of that, we're gonna have citric acid. Like I said, might as well increase in both malic acid and citric acid are in most pre-workouts as it is, but citric acid is going to contribute to the citric acid cycle. And there are studies showing that citric acid can improve endurance. Might need to be a bigger dose than what we have here. We're not kind of relying on it, but hey, when you see citric acid in the other ingredients section, realize that there are benefits to that too. That and malic acid aren't just there for, well, they're oftentimes there for the flavor profile and the sourness. This is going to be likely a sour flavored type of pre-workout, but there are benefits from citric acid as well. And then finally, the OG NAD precursor before we had NMN and all that, we're going to throw in a little bit too, niacin, vitamin B3. We don't want too much because a lot of people hear niacin are like, whoa, too much flushing and all that. No, I'm not going to do that. 30 milligrams, 150% daily value, nothing crazy here, but enough to make sure that we have what we need to make as much NAD and get that ATP produced as much as possible. And that is my Mito-friendly, Mito-boosting pre-workout supplement. Long story short is I wanted something different here. I wanted something that was going to provide clean energy. I'm a huge fan of this BioNMN. You know I love RhodioPrime. I can't even talk about it. I get so excited. And then finally, the Mitoburn alongside that we've covered in depth. Pair that up with some Creatine Pyruvate, a little bit of Betaine, a little bit of AcetylLCarnitine, and some friends in the form of MCTs in C8 Vantage, and then get some of those water pumps going, and we have a really different, unique pre-workout that I think will feel great, and we don't need that much caffeine. And that's what I was tasked to do, and that's what I made. Obviously, this pre-workout, if someone were to formulate this, it would probably be too expensive for the majority of people. You'd have to tinker with some stuff. I actually missed an ingredient here. That's hilarious. So I include another CD38 inhibitor alongside of quercetin, apigenin, which has some other benefits as well, anti-aging benefits and everything. So that's in the blog post as well. Now, if you're formulating this, maybe you don't need both quercetin and apigenin. Maybe we have enough mitochondrial biogenesis and you don't need PQQ. That's up for the formulators. But in general, I'm looking for stuff that just allow us to get away from too much caffeine, and it's gonna feel good. I want a good mood pre-workout. I don't want alpha yohimbine making me anxious. I want to be in a good mood. And so that's why I put together this pre-workout, which I think would feel fantastic, even if you dialed some of these things down. So anyway, blog.priceplow.com/formulators-corner. You can subscribe at PricePlow on Instagram and PricePlow on YouTube. Thanks for hanging out this long and everything. I love putting these together, even if they're monster formulas, and we're 29 minutes in this video and my camera's about to shut off. Thanks for watching. Check out PricePlow.com/NNB-Nutrition to stay alerted to all of our cool NNB Nutrition news, formulas, new ingredients, and formulators corners. Thank you.